We are at one asking all the candidates, they will please make their way to their chairs, their seats. There are people around the audience. Please make your way up to your seats.
That would have been nice.
Welcome each of you to the American Legion. The League of Women Voters is watching this forum tonight, and it's going to be a good thing. All the candidates that run for election are going to be able to attend the elected Baptist centers. And hopefully, there might be something said that keeps you vote for something. So again, welcome you all here, and I hope it turns out to be good. At this moment, I'm going to turn it over to the president of the League of Women Voters, Gregory White.
Good afternoon and welcome to the candidate forum for the Georgia Congressional District, hosted by the League of Women Voters of the Dolphin. I am your president. I am the president of the league, Gregory Washington. Would you please stand and join me for the pledge of allegiance? Thank you. First, I would like to thank the American Legion for allowing us to use their wonderful building here today. I would also like to thank our candidates for choosing to run and for being here today. And I want to thank each and every one of you for taking time out of your day to be here with us. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization. We do not support or oppose any political candidate or party. Believe that democracy works best when everyone participates and everyone is informed. We invited all candidates to be here today, and those who are not in attendance received multiple appointments to be invited. Before I introduce our moderators, I'd like to thank the Legion one more time for allowing us to be here. Our first moderator is Antoine Simmons. He worked at Hamilton Medical Center for almost 30 years in physical therapy and sports medicine. He's a longtime resident of Dawson. He is deeply committed to our community and is a registered mediator with the Georgia House of Dispute Resolution. He also serves as a commissioner of Wales House Dawson and a member of the Georgia Governing Board of the Community Foundation of Northwest Georgia. Our next moderator is Dr. Christopher Stern. He's a longtime veterinarian at Dawson Animal Care, where he provides compassionate care to pets of the Dawson community for more than 40 years. He is a dedicated member of St. Martin Church and is deeply committed to community service. He is actively involved with local Alzheimer's Association, serving as the chairman of the Dawson Tree Board and co-chair of the Greenhouse Child Advocacy Center. And free time, he enjoys traveling more than he has spending time. He and his wife of 36 years, Catherine West, shared their home with their dog, Billy. And now I will turn it over to our moderator.
Good evening. Before we get started, I'll get we also actually did not report. We have a point device on for second. Forum is being live streamed via Zoom. Those watching online will be able to see and hear the forum. Will not be able to ask questions. Recording will be available on the League of Women Voters Dolphin Bears Facebook page. All candidates receive the same question 2 days ago. We will ask those first. For large candidate pool, we will not have time to take audience questions. But you are welcome to remain today after our forum. Candidates will have 2 minutes to answer each question. We will vary the response order for each question.
Audience, there is not applaud and speak. We'll be fair and give each candidate our full attention and respect. Again, candidates will have 2 minutes. 2 minutes. This is probably 3-4 times. Candidates will have 2 minutes for their opening statements and 2 minutes for the closing statement. We have timekeepers.
leaders, staff members, raise your hand. Staff right here at the table, you do not make them mad. They will raise the sign, have 30 seconds. Then they will raise the sign and tell you the time is ending. Once that time is ended, please finish up your statement. Now, candidates again, 2 minutes. Introduce yourself. In your introduction, be sure to include one specific accomplishment you personally achieved, either in elected office or in your professional career, that demonstrates your ability to deliver results for this mission. We're going to start in alphabetical order. So that means that we'll start at our right, your left.
Good evening, I'm Star Black. I just wanted to start off saying Washington is out of control. They are overspending, they're crushing our small businesses with regulations, and they're ignoring our rural communities. Why I am running? I want to fight for less government. I want to fight for lower taxes. And I want to have stronger local control. One of my unique qualifications is I'm the only candidate in this race that has 28 years of working in federal service with all the other federal agencies. I personally led disaster response. And as we all know, there's a lot of red tape. So I know how to get through that red tape, to get people back in their homes, I have written over probably about $6 million in grants for our local and state communities to get them reimbursed for the things that they incurred that wasn't in their budget when a disaster hits. So when I show up, it's chaos. And when I leave, there's usual logic that's happening. I have very conservative priorities. I want to cut overspending. I want to secure or make sure our border stays secure, that we boost our law enforcement, and we give parents the voice for their child's education. The contrast of me and the other candidates is I am not an insider. I also believe that lobbyists should stay out of our office and no elected official should be bought from a lobbyist. And I'm not a bureaucrat. So leadership puts our communities first, and the way that I'm looking to do that is to increase our trade schools. Thank you.
Good evening, Dalton. My name is Bo Brown. People who got my grassroots campaign. I didn't go to Washington, D.C. to be anointed by. I'm not backed by wealthy individuals because I can't be bought. I'm just like you, a regular everyday American, and before December 2nd, I was raising a family and working to earn a living. A little bit about me, I'm from Rome, Georgia, born and raised, I've been there for 38 years. And I'm backed by a blue collar raising. I'm a wife to a former public school teacher. Sorry, I'm not a wife. I'm a husband. It's Valentine's Day, sir. I'm a husband to a former public school teacher, and I'm a father to 2 beautiful children, but 7 and 3. I've spent my time in risk management and insurance over the last decade, helping business owners all across this district. I had many a lunch meeting with my father, who's in the foundation business. He works in Whipple County, mainly with Felker Construction. You may know who I'm talking. Had many lunch meetings at Oakwood Cafe, Gills, and Dalton. So I'm very acquainted with this area. And like I said, I'm just like you. I'm running to make a change. We don't need another elected, we need an ordained politician. We don't need someone that's looking for political expediency. We need a regular, everyday American that's going to get the job done. It's going to focus on the American citizen in this district more than the things in Washington. And ask for your vote on March 10th.
Happy Valentine's Day, everybody. My name is Clay Fuller. And gentlemen in the crowd, if you said that this was going to be a date for Valentine's Day, I give you permission to take out your phone right now and make an emergency order for some roses at home. My wife can't be here to be at this event because she's with a volleyball tournament right now. So a lot of each and every one of y'all spending your Valentine's Day with us. But I'm in this race to be a warrior for Northwest Georgia. For everyone in this room, even if you're not one of the ones who are inclined to vote for me, I'm going to go to DC to be a warrior for each and every one of you. And last Wednesday, I got a call from President Trump, and he endorsed our campaign because he has said that I am the candidate that can carry on his MAGA agenda on Capitol Hill and have it back and be the warrior for Northwest Georgia that we need. And if you are looking for someone who is going to be a warrior for the people here, if you're looking for someone who believes in faith, duty, and America first, I'm asking for your vote. Talk about faith. 31 years old when I was on active duty, diagnosed with cancer. And my wife, who can't be here today, she was in that ICU room at Walter Reed. It'd be great to God if I was given more time, I was going to come back home to North Georgia and be a warrior for this place. I came back and I was a district attorney here, just a little bit north of Whitfield. And I fought each and every day to make sure our community was the safest in Georgia and in the nation. You're really, really good at it. And if I'm willing to give you an accomplishment in my career, there was a case where there was a gentleman who had been raping women for 3 decades in the Northwest Georgia community. I was able to build a relationship with the multiple victims who he had raped, and finally got that case into a courtroom. I was able to get that man convicted, make sure that he spends the rest of his time in prison. That's my accomplishment. And if you're looking for a candidate who stands for faith, duty, and America first, if you're looking for a candidate to carry on President Trump's agenda on Capitol Hill, my name is Clay Fuller, and I'm asking for your vote.
First of all, I want to say thank you to everybody that's hosted the event tonight. I'm Sean Harris. I think many of y'all guys know that I'm a father, husband, and yes, it is Valentine's Day. And yes, my wife is home, and as soon as we finish this, I'm getting back home to figure out the dinner. But on top of that, I'm a grandfather, I'm a farmer, I'm a veteran. Now, what I want you to really know is this. I'm the candidate as a Democrat that's laser focused on you. What can I do to help you with your life, your kids' life, and your grandkids' life? That is the major difference between me and everybody else up here. I am not looking to go to DC and join a team. You have heard me say, yes, I'm a Democrat, but I'm not married to the party. My job as a leader is to focus on you. What I will do when I get to DC is make sure that we'll address the needs here in Northwest Georgia. And because I'm here in Dalton, Georgia, I will make sure somebody's held accountable. I will make sure that we bring very good jobs to Murray County, because I know we're going to talk about that a little bit later today. But I also want you to know accomplishment. Yes, I'm a general, or yes, I was the brigadier general, but I actually started off enlisted in the United States Marine Corps. And to go from being a private, yes, my name at one time in my life was Private Harris, and retired as General Harris, the last assignment has been Israel. I know how to get things done. And for my fellow teachers, most people don't talk about this. I was a 7th grade teacher. Back then, I used to have hair, and now I don't. So I know how to get things done. I know how to reach across the aisle, and I'm looking forward to working for you and you only.
Good evening. I'm Lama, born and raised right here in Dalton. I've been on city council for the past few years, and it's been an honor to be able to serve each and every one of you in our community, help cut our millage rate on our property taxes, and help try to fight the assessment issue where everybody's property tax assessments went up. I'm a fighter. I'm very concerned about the direction of our country, and we have to have new leadership. The average age in Congress is over 57. And if we don't turn our country around and start electing new people with new ideas, we're going to be in trouble. Our debt deficit every year is over $1.5 trillion. Where are we going to be in 10 years? Where's my generation going to be? Where's my kids' generation going to be? We have to stop sending money overseas to other countries that doesn't benefit us in foreign aid. We have to fix our affordability and housing crisis. The average age now for people, first-time home buyers, is almost 40 years old. That's ridiculous. We have to fix our healthcare system. Our healthcare insurance has gone through the roof. Everybody's seen it nearly triple just this year when they had to renew. These are all issues that I face in my family, and just like every one of you, we have to make a change. That's why I'm asking for your vote, and I want to go and work for each one of you in DC because we need change, and I'm going to be that person. I'm Nick Ulama, and I appreciate the honor to be here tonight to speak with each and every one of you. I'm going to be reading a little bit because my biggest fear is public speaking into politics. But good afternoon, and thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this forum and inviting me to participate. Thank you to everyone here in person and who's watching online. Your engagement really matters. My name is Rob Rush-Ruskowski, and I'm the only independent in this race. I've built a small business from scratch my whole life. I've built multiple businesses from scratch my whole life. I'm a father, a good neighbor, and a former caregiver for my parents for 13 years. In a time when our politics and media are often emphasize what divides us, it's worth remembering something simple. We're all on the same ship. Our ship has been taking on water for decades. Not everyone is on the same deck. Not everyone sees the same things happening around them. Too many Americans are working too hard, paying more, and still falling behind. That divide did not happen by accident. Since the 1980s, trickle-down economic policies promised broad prosperity. Instead, wealth concentrated, corporate power expanded, and the middle class felt strained. For decades, concentrated financial influence has shaped both major parties at the highest levels, making it harder for ordinary citizens to be heard within the two-party system. The Citizens United decision in 2010 accelerated that trend by opening the door to unlimited money in politics. Now we face another turning point, artificial intelligence. If AI shapes industries, millions of jobs could disappear. If it collapses as a speculative bubble, which a lot of people are worried about, the fallout could hit working families hard. Either way, regular people should not be left holding the bag. If AI succeeds, the gains must be shared, not just captured at the top.
Hi, my name is Meg Strickland. I was born in Nashville, Tennessee, the daughter of a single mother and the granddaughter of a butcher and a factory worker. My mom was the first person in our family to graduate from college, and she taught me that resilience isn't just a word, it's a way of life. I carried that lesson with me to Washington, D.C. when I arrived in 2008, just in time for the crash. Those years shaped my understanding of what it means to push yourself to the brink. In DC, I didn't just work for the U.S. Senate or the Department of Transportation. I learned how to stand my ground. As a Republican woman at George Washington University, I was often the only person in the room with my perspective. It taught me to listen to criticism without losing my values and to challenge the status quo without losing my cool. As a mother of three and a small business owner, I see the world through the lens of a budget, not a briefing paper. I'll say that as a travel agent, living and working through 2020 was another experience that was refined by fire. Our businesses were shut down by the government, and we all learned a lot during that. What Georgians need is stability, an economy that rewards hard work, protects savings, and allows us to plan for the future without constant crisis. Strong, steady leadership in Congress that is open-minded and pragmatic can help restore normalcy. But this will only happen if you vote for someone who understands the complexities of the issue, has integrity, and is ready to work hard for those solutions. Thank you for coming tonight.
Good evening. My name is Jenna Turnipseed. Again, I'd like to thank all of you guys for coming here, and I'd especially like to thank the American Legion for hosting. I'm a 22-year Army veteran. I retired from the military about 2 years ago. I am a small-time vegetable farmer, and I teach JROTC in Northwest Georgia. I have 4 children and 1 grandchild, believe it or not. And I am running for Congress because for me, this is a continuation of everything that I have ever done. So at the beginning, the moderator asked us a question. He asked us to give you guys an example of something that we have done in our history that directly translates to this. When I was an officer, I never failed to take care of my soldiers. There was never an issue, never anything that they needed that wasn't worth my time. When somebody would say, ma'am, don't put, you don't need a dog in that fight, right? That's not worth your effort. You're going to lose this one. I always stood up and did what was right, whether I lost or not. I worked at the USA JFK Special Warfare Center. When I was told that I couldn't buy specific weapons parts for foreign military training that we needed for our Green Beret training, I spent endless hours going through congressional documents to find the authorizations that we needed. When I worked in EOD and I was told that we were stuck with an MRAP vehicle for our EOD that we wouldn't be able to ever use because it was too heavy on the ground, and those units had tried to get rid of them for 10 years, I took the time to directly illustrate the manpower and cost that it involved in keeping those vehicles. And I was the first person to be able to get those vehicles for new. My final position was an EOD Group Executive Officer, something that I got when I was not EOD because of a reputation I built to get things done. And that's what I wanted to hear. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Andrew Underwood, Libertarian Party. I want to say several of our candidates are retired military, and I absolutely appreciate their service. My father was an airborne MP in the U.S. Army. 87. However, I never served. I looked up to him so much, and I've always wanted to find my own way to do what's best and follow the code of honor that I saw him do. That's what I want to do here. I did not always live in this district. I moved here about 12 years ago. My people here have been so good to me. It's become a new home, and the only home I'll ever want. I don't want to go to Washington. I desperately hate the idea of going into a place like that. Yet, I'm running because I feel I have a responsibility. I think the people of this district deserve the best possible representation they can get. And I don't know if that's me, but I'm willing to try. My training in college, I was a physics major, but my true passion was always mathematics. If you want someone who can balance the budget, I am a details-oriented man who will absolutely get that covered. If I can balance a fourth-order differential equation, I can balance a budget.
First question. Question. First question is the immigration status for childhood arrival. Dalton is 50, according to the. There are individual communities. Had no choice, no knowledge. For most, United States is the only country they've known. Many have lived here 18 years before. We vote for legislation to provide a permanent pathway to the legal neither of these individuals. Why? We will start with making.
First, let me say that the other candidates who are running, claiming that we will deport every illegal immigrant, are not only morally wrong, they are not rational. It's not fair or feasible to deport every illegal immigrant. I keep saying that deportation only is not a solution. We must pass legislation. And as a congresswoman, I would support legislation that would permanently change our immigration system, allow a path to legal work status, and secure the border permanently. We must distinguish between people who have lived here for more than 3 years or less than 3 years. If you have been here for less than 3 years, you are an adult with no dependents. You must go home and apply for a new legal pathway to work here. A new law could require people to come forward proving the length of their residency and their identity. Once you confirm your identity, we will be able to establish if this person has a criminal history. If they do not, they may move forward. If you come forward, you will pay a fine and be put on a probationary period. During that 10-year probationary period, you have to be enrolled in school or gainfully employed. At the end of 10 years, if you're in good standing, you may apply to get legal residency in our country. If you broke the law by coming here illegally, the penalty is you can never become an American citizen. However, it is not fair to hold the average immigrant in our community responsible for a president who allowed an open border. It is just for Congress to provide a remedy to the situation they created, while also making sure it is not easier to break the law in the future. Thank you.
My answer to this question is yes. If someone was brought here as a child and grew up here, I support giving them permanent legal path and eventually citizenship. If someone was brought here as a baby, went to school here, worked here, raised a family here, this is home. In Dalton and across this district, Hispanic families have helped build this community. They've worked in the carpet industry for generations. They've opened businesses. They've built churches. They've raised kids who now call Northwest Georgia home. And let's be honest, if we suddenly remove large numbers of those workers, it won't just hurt families. It would hit our local economy hard. Leaders in the carpet industry have said this, that losing that workforce would be devastating to our region. And let's be honest, I'm sorry, but this isn't only about children, it's also about families. If a mother or father has been here for years, working, raising children, paying taxes, and has no record of violent crime, I believe they should also have the legal path forward. Tearing parents away from their children is not a solution. It creates trauma, it weakens communities. Now, if we do need secure borders and we do need clear rules, violent criminals should not be protected. But families who have built real lives here deserve a fair, structured process to earn legal status. We can enforce the law while keeping families together. That's not weakness, that's responsibility.
This is one of the toughest issues facing our country right now. And I just want to start by saying many of the children that were brought here as young adults or even kids did not make that choice to move here illegally. And unfortunately, when you move here illegally, you've already broken a federal law. I cannot support legislation to grant citizenship or any kind of protective status to illegal immigrants into our country, because it would set a precedent to grant it for every other illegal immigrant in the future. I come from a family of immigrants, so this is something that I'm very concerned about. My dad moved here from Chile. His parents have moved here legally. My grandmother moved here from Korea on my mother's side. And I have aunts and uncles that have also immigrated into the United States. They all went through the due process. Some of them, it took years for them to get citizenship status. So this is something that's very personal. Every one of them would agree on this status, on this situation. And it's unfortunate because a lot of the kids that have moved here have been adults in their whole life. They've worked here, they started businesses, but unfortunately, people have to do things the right way. And that's where I stand on this issue. And it's something that's very important that we take care of our country and make sure that everybody goes through the due process.
You know, immigration has been made political. The reality of it is that Sean supports every young person that came here as a kid that did not have a choice and been here their entire life. They should have a path directly to become a citizen here. With that being said, we're in Dalton, Georgia tonight. We know here in Dalton, Georgia, if every immigrant is packed up tonight and leave, this town would crumble. This town could not survive. So we're actually talking about things that are going to cut our own nose off. What I would say is this. We needed to secure the border. President Trump did that. However, he told us that he was going to go at the worst of the worst. Now, we all know that we're not going at the worst of the worst. What we're doing now is just going at everyday, hard-working people. But in that particular case, we have killed 2 Americans. You killed 2 Americans, you're doing something wrong. When I get to DC, I will work hard to get ICE back under control because right now they are not doing things the right way as a law enforcement. Every cop here in Dalton, Georgia, no matter what state they work for, you can always see their face. They all got on body armor just like I got on body armor tonight. They all got on a camera on their chest and they make sure they identify who they are. At no given time, especially here in Dalton and throughout Northwest Georgia, that somebody will have to come out at 4:30 in the morning and figure out where is ICE at so that you can go to work and take care of your family. And I am that candidate that's going to stand up for every community. And that's why I was in Dalton early today talking to the Hispanic community.
ICE agents have to cover their face because they would be an immediate Democratic nonprofit organization that would start to release their information and their families would be under attack. That's why they have to hide their face. What ICE agents are doing, if I'm on Capitol Hill, make sure that we nominate ICE agents for the Presidential Medal of Freedom because they are enforcing law, the neo-Confederates, who are not letting them do the job and enforce federal law, putting lives at risk. Ladies and gentlemen, the lawlessness in this country is over. Broken windows is not just a theory, it's a fact. What you've seen over the last year, since January of 2025, since we secured the border, started removing criminal illegal aliens, what is the fact that you've seen? The greatest drop in the murder rate in this nation's history. The greater tragedy in this was during the Biden administration. The Biden administration lost 300,000 migrant children. 300,000. Anybody say where those kids are? You're worried about breaking up families? I am for making sure that we keep families together, but that means that they're going to have to come in and go by the rules of this country because we are a nation of laws. My experience as a prosecutor, I've seen since we secured the border and started removing illegal aliens, it actually saved lives. The price of fentanyl in my judicial circuit actually increased. That means the supply was lessened. So the approach that the Trump administration has done is quite literally saving lives across this country. Ladies and gentlemen, the lawlessness is over.
I didn't get in this race to represent legal. I got in this race to represent hardworking Northwest Georgians, American citizens, and American taxpayers. But when it comes to immigration, DACA and the DREAM Act is something that makes sense to me. If you've been here more than 3 years, it probably needs to be around a decade. Because that makes sense to me that you've been here long enough. Brought here without their you know, with no knowledge of it. I mean, they were brought here by the parents or they were trafficked here. Thank God they got here safely. You know, people don't talk about the other side. Immigration is very dangerous. There's sex trafficking, there's death, there's murder. And it's not just a great thing that happens. So I'm for some type of, not citizenship, but some type of pathway to keep these people here with it's the only right they know. The bigger issue I have is criminal and illegal aliens. We have to get them out of this country. Not only did they break the law getting here, they've caused harm to the community, to public safety. You know, they killed Americans. Some Americans have been hurt with criminal and illegal aliens. So I would continue to push for removal of all criminal and illegal aliens. The problem is, in these democratic strongholds, they're not cooperating with ICE. They're going to release them back into the public, which is a massive issue. They need to cooperate with Immigration and Customs Enforcement to remove these criminal illegal aliens, these people that are going to cause harm to the illegal aliens that are here, that have day jobs, that work and pay their bills and take care of their family. It's not a one-size-fits-all picture. We got to be smart and think about these things. But most of all, they have to assimilate and avoid changing birthright citizenship. You need to have one parent needs to be an American citizen, period.
Unfortunately, the folks that are here, because they did not have a choice, they are here illegally. They are costing our taxpayers money. Now, what a lot of folks don't realize, I mean, I welcome them to come in, just come in legally. But what a lot of folks don't realize, you know, we've talked about ICE, is how it's supposed to work. The law enforcement is the ones that gather up these illegals. Then they notify ICE that these folks are here illegally. ICE decides whether to put a hold or release. ICE is a transporter to deport folks. They should not be the ones that are detaining these folks. What you saw in Minnesota, because the governor and the mayor did not allow their local law enforcement to do their job, that's why ICE had to step in. I do believe that we need to prioritize those kids that are here with some type of immigration priority. But the other thing is those hardworking ones need to check in with the sheriff department every single month so we know where everyone is. And we can also see if they have a criminal record behind. Then they should apply for legal status in this country because our country has amazing opportunities and it should be just for our citizens.
My great grandmother came here through Ellis Island in 1929. If we had the same restrictions that we have now in place, she would have been turned away and would have had to go back to Germany. We have incredibly broken system for immigration. We have people coming here illegally who absolutely want to follow our laws, who want to be productive members of society. I'm sure that many of you have met these people, but they can't because our system is so broken. We need to streamline our immigration system. We need to make sure that the people who are coming here now have the same opportunities that my great-grandmother had. But for the people who are already here, need to recognize that as far as many of them know, they are and always have been Americans, regardless of what their status is on paper. And our laws need to be enforceable. We need to have reasonable laws that we can actually expect to be able to enforce without going door to door. We need to have due process so that we're not sending American citizens away.
All right, so I'm actually going to start this off by saying, Meg, I love you. Because she is the first Republican candidate that I have heard understand that it is not feasible. So regardless of where you sit on the issue and debate of if someone should be allowed to stay here because they have entered legally or illegally, the reality is that we have 14 million illegal immigrants in the country of the United States. If you look at our surge of mass deportations under Donald Trump and our ability to deport 300,000 illegal immigrants last year, at that rate, it will take 47 years before you're able to deport them all, right? We just can't do it. I am very excited that we have secured the borders. It means we have reduced the problem from compounding in the future. I think we need to continue an ICE focus on the ability to remove illegal immigrants that have committed violent crimes. Like that is the purpose of ICE. And then we need to start picking through the different categories, and we need to find realistic solutions. The moderator asked specifically, what is something that you would do for these individuals that were born and raised here? We have people in Dalton, we have people all over the United States that have high school diplomas. Let them join the military, give them an opportunity to earn their citizenship. They want to be here, let them spend their time where others are willing to do so.
Thank you, candidates. Great job. Move on to our second question. Our second question is around tariffs and trade policy. Tariffs reached their highest level since 1909. Locally, flooring companies raised prices 8%. Retailers cut workers' hours, and local cattle ranchers face price drops from beef imports. The Supreme Court is reviewing challenges to the president's tariff authority with a decision expected soon. Do you support tariffs on imported goods, and what impact do you believe they have on affordability for average families in our district? We're going to start this question out with Mr. Fuller, and we're going to move to their left.
I'm talking about being a lawyer for Northwest Georgia and having President Trump's back. One of the key components of that is supporting President Trump's tariff policy, because it has had a positive impact on what we are trying to do to make sure that there is development and real jobs coming back to Main Street and towns across North Georgia. It is important to support this policy, and I will fight for it on Capitol Hill, because what we've seen, if we double down on President Trump's economic policies, we've seen record wage growth in this country. We have. I see your heads shaking. These are things that you can, they are verifiable facts. We've seen record GDP growth. We have. Y'all are living in an alternative universe. We've seen unemployment come down. And the main thing that we are going to see with the trade policies, we're going to start to see what has happened over the last 30, 40 years. Communities that I grew up in, I'm a ninth generation North Georgian, we've seen the manufacturing base just leave these communities and devastate the industries. What President Trump is trying to do, from a tariff policy standpoint, is restore those good manufacturing jobs back to communities like ours. Because you know what? Not every community is like Dalton, who has had economic and manufacturer leaders to make sure that there's an individual in these communities to raise a family on one good paycheck in the community where their ancestors are buried. Not every community is like Dalton. So what President Trump is doing is fighting for those communities that have been ignored for over 30 or 40 years. one of the greatest lies, we were talking about immigration in the last question, one of the greatest lies told to Americans over the last 30, 40 years, that Americans don't want to do these jobs. Americans are the hardest working people the world has ever known. You bring these jobs back to these communities, and you're going to end the devastation that we've seen that have turned people to substance abuse. And you're going to end what we've been seeing with the greatest cause of death with fentanyl. So I support President Trump's too.
Thank you. Excuse me, if I would remind the audience, if you would refrain from any extra commentary towards the candidates, whether you agree with them or not, that is applause and or any audible disagreements that you would have. Please listen to them, listen to their stances on the issues, and you can address those differences at a later time. Thank you.
Well, I think it's clear that we all know tariff tax. I think we all realize that that tax is you are actually paying. Period. Now, how does this affect us here in Northwest Georgia? The reality of it is, I want everybody to know that I was born on a farm in Southwest Georgia. So I've been farming all of my life. On top of that, we're tied to row crops as peanuts, soybeans, and cotton. And then on top of that, when I retired from the military, I decided to become a cow farmer. So this question here is not only personal to me, but the reason why I'm going to go to DC and fight for you is because it affects every last one of us across the board. Right now, our farmers in this district are right now on the brink of losing their farms. Suicide rates are out the roof simply because of tariff, because we don't have anywhere to sell our beef. And if we had a place to sell our beef, as we know a few months ago, the prices started going up and down. What I will say to you is this. We have to pull the tariffs back. They should not be weaponized because right now, pretty much any country, friend or foe, any country that actually makes President Trump upset, he puts a 10, 20, 30, 50, 80% tariff on it. But the reality of it is costing us in our own. So I'm going to close it this way. I think we need to bring the temperature down, make sure that we actually put policies in place that all of us can survive, because I'm not living in an alternative universe. Prices are high. Affordability is an issue, and you are working 2 or 3 jobs to try to make ends meet. Don't let somebody tell you a lie.
Tariffs are important to balance our trade with other countries. I have personally seen here in Dalton where a company just closed down because they couldn't keep up with the carpet manufacturing that's being shipped in from China. And that is someone that I personally knew, and they put thousands of people out of a job just because they could not afford to keep it up. They said, why would we keep manufacturing on foreign when we can ship it in and sell it cheaper than we can produce it? So I do think tariffs are important. I think that they're a great negotiating tactic, and we've seen it going on for these past several months, where we've been able to make things happen for the betterment of our country. And I do support the tariffs. It's important for us to continue to create jobs and bring jobs back to America rather than giving them to foreign entities that pay pennies on the dollar to their staff. We need to make sure we take care of our communities first.
The idea behind tariffs is simple: protect American jobs. And sometimes targeted tariffs can make sense, especially when we're protecting critical industries or responding to unfair trade practices. But here's the reality: when tariffs go up across the board, prices go up too. We've already seen that here. Flooring companies in our region raised prices. Q-Cells has reduced worker hours. Local cattle ranchers like Sean have felt the pressure from global trade shifts. And families feel it when they go to the grocery store or any store. Some businesses feel it when they're ordering materials. So I don't support sweeping across the board tariffs that raise costs on everything. That can backfire and hurt the very people we're trying to protect. When major economies start trading economic blows, other countries respond. Trade partners impose counter tariffs. That makes it harder for American companies, farmers, and manufacturers to sell their products overseas. And that tension doesn't stay contained. It ripples outwards and affects jobs here at home. We need strong trade enforcement. We need to protect American workers, but we also need stable alliances and smart strategy. At the end of the day, the question is simple. Does this policy protect jobs here at home? And does it keep costs down for families in this district? If it doesn't do both, we need a better approach. I'm not interested in trade wars for the sake of headlines. I'm interested in protecting the people and businesses of this district. As an independent, I will evaluate every trade decision based on what it actually does to our jobs, our industry, and our cost of living, not what it does for party politics. I'm Rob Rush, and I will always put this district first.
Yes, I would support targeted and flexible tariffs. That's because we have a budget crisis in our country, and Congress has proven that they can't fix it. So Americans are good at working harder and smarter, and that's what we've got to do. I think that this creates a few positive scenarios for our country. One is we will have an immediate impact. The lowest estimate is that it will bring in $200 billion per year. That translates to a $2,000 check for each person. But the long-term impact is actually much more important. It would bring manufacturing jobs back here, and a job is even more important than a government paycheck. Where I was from in Lewisburg, Tennessee, was a manufacturing hub for factories. As I said before, that's where my family worked in. My grandfather was also a butcher who worked in the meat industry. So I understand how those markets are very reliant upon government policies. But what we also need to realize is that those policies help or hurt our allies. So we have to be smart to send a message that participation in our economy is not a given, but it is a negotiated relationship. A fair trade situation is not a fixed percentage of tariffs, but is a two-way relationship that benefits both parties. I believe that we can do that and that it would strengthen our country for the long term. Thank you.
So I'm somebody that likes the idea of tariffs, and I'm going to tell you why. So it starts with the fact that no correct solution is easy. There seems to be this mentality going around with the idea that if we increase tariffs, we're going to lower prices. That's not how it works. We require tariffs because it drives up the prices of the things that we import, which encourages manufacturing here. That is a long range process. We need to be transparent of it because we need to be honest that that pinch is going to hurt. We also need to realize that we have to fix the entire supply chain. If we are going to say that we want to increase manufacturing here, that is fantastic. But if you look at carpet mills, right, we produce the majority of the carpet in the world. We don't produce the majority of vinyl flooring. If we have a vinyl flooring tax, then that encourages us here to make more vinyl flooring. But what about the inputs? For carpet, we still import the majority of our fibers. We have companies here that make the fibers that we can use in our carpets, but they're very small. So if we look down the supply chain, stop looking at one cut and dry solution, take the money from tariffs to help small businesses build the manufacturing capability for the fiber that we need for carpet, we build more jobs, we use the money effectively, and we start at the beginning. But we can't just say it's going to happen overnight.
This is actually an issue that I am very passionate. In my introduction, I stated that my true passions are mathematics. Any economist will tell you that not only is a tariff a tax, it is a tax on the consumer, never on the producer. There is no way to levy a tax that is not paid by the consumer. It always works that way. I say then that tariff is the economic equivalent of shooting yourself in the foot out of spite for the man who made your shoes. I used to work at a manufacturing plant that produced aluminum brake knuckles. We imported our aluminum. When there was a tariff placed on it, it became more expensive to import that aluminum. In order to make ends meet, the company had to cut costs elsewhere. Now, sometimes cutting costs means laying off workers. This isn't just about increasing the price of goods and making it harder on your wallet, Todd. This is also about people losing their jobs, too. We really need to understand what this is actually about. And the only way to solve economic problems is through a clear understanding of how economics works. And tariffs just aren't that.
I do support tariffs, but I support smart tariffs. I do not support blanket tariffs. If you think back to COVID, when we were all trying to get masks and we couldn't, our supply chain was stopped because we were getting things in from other countries. And what did we end up doing? You probably pulled out your grandmother's sewing machine and started making your own. So Americans are resilient. If we manufacture things better than any other foreign country, we need to encourage that. And those tariffs stop our dependence on countries like China, who import the cheap stuff into our country. So we don't need to be supporting cheap stuff. We need to be supporting American workers. We need to bring those facilities in-house. We do not need our plywood manufactured in Canada and trucked here when we can do it and we can do it better. It makes our economy stronger. So yes, are we going to feel it in the short term? Of course, because manufacturing doesn't happen overnight. But we need to be independent and stop relying on other countries because they've taken advantage of us. We bought their cheap stuff. It's time we level the playing field.
Donald Trump ran on American first. He won 71 million votes and the electoral college. So he has a mandate. That's what he's doing right now. These tariffs, more or less, I would think are going to be short term to re-level the playing field. His favorite thing is they've been ripping us off, and it's been a situation. So long-term tariffs obviously going to work up for the long haul, but he did this to tackle the deficit. That was a promise he made, and we have to tackle the deficit. What he's done is $291 billion of surplus, which is going to end up in a $2,000 dividend check each and every American. That's money in your pocket. Now, you guys scream about multinational corporations. Guess who tariffs affect? Multinational corporations. He's protecting domestic industry. He's protecting American mom and pop businesses. That's what's going on with this tariff right now. And it's allowing us to leverage it against these foreign trade partners. And he's actually doing a great job of getting, like I think with Canada, he started with a large number and now it's down to a more reasonable number. And if you look at the statistics, the trade rate, really effective rate comes out to about 16%. Now I shop at Kroger and Walmart. I know, just like you, how much affordability means. I'm the sole provider for my family right now, and we definitely live on a budget. And that's what I promise to do. I'm going to reprioritize things in Washington back to the American citizen to benefit you either tangibly through tax cuts, infrastructure spending, or anything that doesn't benefit you is going to be an issue with me. So, of course, right now, more tariffs, but I don't think it's a long-term sustainable thing. We'll see it change over time.
The national debt is over 36 trillion and growing. Congressional Budget Office projects debt will reach 118% GDP 35. Annual interest payments on the debt now exceed $1 billion. The One Big Beautiful Bill Act, 2025, is projected to add another between 4.1 trillion dollars to the debt over 10 years, depending on whether temporary provisions are made permanent. Name two specific areas where you would cut federal spending or raise revenue to address the national debt. Include data and dollar amounts. We'll be starting with Mr. Underwood and then going right.
Purpose of this question is absolutely correct. Our spending is out of control. The debt to GDP ratio is not sustainable in any way, shape, or form. And we can't fix that without making some serious cuts to our spending. I'm not talking about $100,000 here, but $1 million there. We can't just cut around the edges. And this may be unpopular, but we're going to have to go after the big portions. Right now, healthcare and Social Security make up more than 50%. I want to say this right now. I have no intention of trying to take away anyone's Social Security that's currently receiving. However, we're going to need to stop giving it out to more people. We can't continue. It's already going to be insolvent. Defense spending makes up another 16% in change. We have the biggest, most powerful military in the world. We can afford to cut back a little bit, especially if we cannot build our alliances up. We can raise revenue by really cutting taxes. If we cut taxes to a certain level, we can actually increase spending throughout the economy. That makes everyone richer and more tax dollars.
All right, so if you guys haven't figured it out yet, I am a numbers person. The national debt is one of the primary reasons I'm going to be able to run. The first event that I ever went to when I started the campaign, I pointed out that everybody's share of the national debt interest payments alone was $5,263. That was in November, and I used an FY24 statistic. Today, I looked at it for FY26 with the projected $1 trillion in interest payments. It's gone up to $6,250. That means in 3 months, your share of your taxes just for the national debt interest payment alone has got $1,000. We have to start paying down the national debt. So the first thing I'm going to look at is revenue, right? You mentioned one cut program and one interest program. Revenue program, I told you before that there's 14 million illegal immigrants in the United States. Tax revenue from one individual is $14,400. If you tax the 14 million illegal immigrants that are here and let them pay into the system and decide that they can be here illegally, you've now generated $2 trillion in revenue over 10 years. From there, we need to look at systematically cutting programs. We have a USDA program on the books since 1906 that requires us to have meat inspectors in every butcher facility if you're going to cut your meat up. That not only adds 50 cents a pound of beef for everybody at the market, it also adds another couple $1 million on the USDA's budget. We have to look at systematic cuts. We have to bring money in, but primarily we need to redo everything, and that's going to include healthcare. The first election I remember, I was a kid, it was Bush versus Clinton. At that time, the national healthcare budget was 60% of the defense budget. It's now 150%. Everything has to change.
Right. I also worked in DC. So working in the Department of Transportation, I can tell you that I learned two things. Federal employees do work hard for their president, and Congress inflates the budget. Their budgets are decided upon year after year by rubber stamping. As a congresswoman, I would target federal government spending on local mass transportation. It is not fair for a taxpayer in Georgia to be subsidizing urban transportation in New Jersey, New York, California, or Illinois. While I agree mass transportation is important, unless it is an interstate route, it doesn't need to be funded federally. This would cut about $30 billion in 5 years, and it would negatively affect very few people. No one in Georgia should be paying for buses in California. Given a fair amount of notice, states could compensate for this in their budget. While we take on debt and we feel the effects of interest or potentially downgraded status, we should make sure that any federal expense taken serves a national benefit. I also would consider looking at, instead of raising the retirement age, making the first few years of retirement means tested. You would have to set a very high cap for $100,000 in assets and then phase in, starting with a $1,000 monthly benefit for those who need it most. This would be going forward, and no one who has current benefits would be under this program. But if we did that, phasing in and means tested instead of raising the minimum required, instead of raising the retirement age, we would save $2.6 trillion. Thank you.
$36 trillion. 36,000 billion dollars. 36 million dollars. Wrap your head around. $1 trillion a year just in interest. That's money that isn't going to roads, schools, or lowering costs for families. They can't keep pretending in Washington that it doesn't matter. If we're serious about fixing this, we have to start where the imbalance is biggest. First, fair taxation at the very top. Today, the ultra-wealthy and large corporations use loopholes and offshore structures that cost this country hundreds of billions of dollars every year. Restoring higher top rates and closing those loopholes could generate well over $300 billion annually. That's not punishing success. That's enforcing fairness. Second, real accountability in defense spending. Yes, defense spending. Nobody wants to talk about it. The Pentagon has never passed a full audit. Never. The defense budget is over $800 billion a year. Even eliminating just 5% of the waste, fraud, and mismanagement would save $40 billion. And if we're serious about auditing government, the largest department cannot be exempt from scrutiny. I support a strong national defense, don't get me wrong. But strength requires accountability. If we combine fair taxation at the top with real oversight and defense spending, we can reduce deficits without cutting Social Security or Medicare for the working families. If we're going to fix this, we start at the top, not at the kitchen table.
So I want to start by saying I actually think that the Medicaid reform in the big beautiful bill will help by starting to reduce the deficit by all the qualifications and verifications for people to maintain their eligibility. So I'll make these reforms permanent. But two things that I would cut. Number one, it would be foreign aid. We send over $60 billion a year overseas, and absolutely none of it is audited. So I will not sign a bill sending money overseas until there is an audit done by the State Department of Foreign Affairs and foreign aid. Second, I would cut all funding to states and municipalities that don't follow federal law. If they don't follow federal law, they don't do their audits like they're supposed to, then the federal government shouldn't be auditing them. We have to do audits each year at the city of Dalton, and every other city and state should be doing the same thing. We need to know how our taxpayer dollars are being spent across the country.
You know, I'll be having a birthday here real soon, and I remember as a kid here in Southwest Georgia, where I'm originally from, Jimmy Carter used to come to our farm and sit around and talk to us about what he was going to do as the governor and then as president. And on top of that, Republicans used to stop by our farm and say the same thing. But I remember as a kid, the major difference was that the Republican Party at that time was talking about the debt, and they had to bring it down. I am blown away that the Republican Party today is saying it's okay to put $36 trillion out there. So what would I do when I get to DC? I'll look at the last bill that just was passed, the big, beautiful bill. This is the one time I'm actually going to look down because we're actually talking real numbers. That big, beautiful bill, the same big, beautiful bill that Marjorie Taylor Greene said that she did not read. Out of that bill was $11 million that actually went to ICE this year. Out of that $11 million, billion, thank you, 11 billion. Out of that, 6.2 billion just went to two companies. I want to let that sink in. We talk about insider trading. Those two companies, one is called Core Civic and the other is called Geo Group. Geo Group, look at it when I get to sit down. Geo Group has the contract to build the largest prison system here in the great state of Georgia that will only house illegal immigrants. And on top of that, thank you, man.
Conservatives are still talking about this issue, but one of the things that I think made shock this crowd and wasn't part of the purpose of the question, you know how much the Biden administration increased the debt? 30%. We're at 36 trillion because we were in the 20s just 4 years ago. It also made shock the crowd that didn't realize that the Trump economy is working and that we're dealing with the inflation that was inherited from Joe Biden. We're actually winning the war against inflation. But for those of you that don't know, we eliminated illegal immigrants from our federal programs. That would save hundreds of billions of dollars. We just eliminated illegal immigrants from our federal programs. Why would we defend them? The other thing is, as the size and scope of government increases, the citizen grows smaller. I would also advocate for eliminating the federal Department of Education, which would also save billions of dollars, and decrease the size of the IRS as well, because it is important to always remember that As the size and scope of government increases, the citizen grows small.
I want to say this, if you're going to vote for somebody that fits in, please don't vote for me, because I don't fit in, I won't fit in Washington. Going there to reprioritize the focus back to the American citizen, and that comes from budget cuts. It's from, I get paid right now currently, and my job is to pay attention to detail. And that's what I'm going to do for you up there, if you elect me. You know, the two things, I mean, there's also the pick two, so I'll pick two. The Department of Education is currently around $96 billion. We still need to, I would definitely want to obviously eliminate the Department of Education, because I think we have strong enough state and local, you know, education systems. We need to put them, prioritize our teachers, our parents, and the students. The second thing I would defund is the CDC. We need to lower the CDC because they let us down during 2020 and COVID. We thought they were there to protect us. They gave us the wrong guidance. They shut down America. They kept us in the house, which was obviously we're seeing wasn't good psychologically for our kids, for us, the mask mandate, all these things. Now, if you want to wear a mask, by all means. But when it comes to the CDC, we should not be funding gain of function research. There needs to be a congressional law that outlaws gain of function research, so we don't have another man-made virus that shuts down the world. Now, got 30 more seconds. Been doing this for about a couple months, so bear with me. I'm going to work hard for you. I'm going to make the cuts because I listened to Sean Hannity growing up when it was 18 trillion, and it keeps growing every year. And you're right, there's an issue in Washington with elected officials. We put our trust in the wrong ones. It's time to send a regular everyday American there to do the right job, to be accountable to this area, and to cut costs and to cut spending where it needs to be cut. Thank you.
All right, I did have to pull up some numbers here. Some things that we need to call back, which a lot of people don't realize, is we have $500 billion in unspent COVID money that has been issued. We pull that back and drop it directly onto the national debt. You've dropped it immediately. This is money that's already been out there. It should not be reallocated to another spending project. We need to pull that back. The other thing that we need to start doing is we need to make sure that we're doing a full audit. And we need to get out of subsidizing the energy sector. They make enough money as it is. We also need to stop subsidizing insurance companies. If you want to break something, let the federal government get involved in it. They should not be involved in your insurance. They're not involved in your car insurance, and it becomes competitive. So we need to do that for the healthcare. So you pull those subsidies back, you're going to see a huge reduction in the budget, but you don't spend it on something else. You put it directly back on the spending.
Thank you. Well, congratulate you, audience. We are almost home. We have one more question. And it deals with federal authority. Proposed Vanguard Renewables anaerobic digestion facility in Murray County is designed to promote cycling, biowaste, and renewable energy production, but has generated significant local opposition over environmental, health, traffic, zoning, and community concerns. Decisions about these kinds of facilities are primarily made through state and local permitting and zoning process. If elected to the U.S. Representative or Georgia's 14th, what specific actions, if any, would you take to address the concerns of the rest of Murray County regarding this proposed facility? We're going to start in the middle. We're going to start with Mr. Lama, and we're going to move to the left, their left, and then to handle?
Well, to start off, specifically with this biowaste facility, there is no congressional authority to stop or approve or deny it, unfortunately. I, in Congress, would be an advocate for the voices that feel like they're not heard locally. It is, whether it's Murray County or down in Polk County, I'm representing the 14th district, representing each and every one of you. I have a ranch in Murray County. I was at the hearing that when I was in Murray County about the biowaste facility, because I don't want there to be more pollutants, more chemicals, and more waste in our soil and our water here locally. We already have enough of that. So I'm fighting against it, and that is something that I'm very passionate about. That is, the people that I represent don't feel like their voices are heard. I want to be the advocate for them.
November 7th, 2025, I attended the public meeting and stood with the people of Chatsworth about the proposed aerobic digestion facility. I spoke on the record and handed out flyers with questions residents deserve to be answered, and trying to help them to ask the right questions to the people that were there. After my remarks, I was instructed to leave the meeting, and I complied. I remained outside for 4 hours speaking with residents as they came out. I was told later that evening that Murray County's sole commissioner, Noah Bishop, was going to take steps to support the community and stop the project from moving forward. And he followed through, and I give him credit for that. What I saw that night wasn't chaos, it was community. People were asking serious questions about health, traffic, environmental impact, and whether they had truly given informed consent. Protecting our water, farmland, soil, and our neighbors' lives in Northwest Georgia is one of my top priorities. We're already dealing with forever chemicals, PFAS, contamination in parts of this region. People are cautious for a reason. Congress shouldn't override local decision-making. That authority, like my colleague here said, is to the state and local officials. If elected, I would do 3 things. First, I would demand full transparency if any federal agency or interstate waste transport are involved. Second, I would push for clear federal protections so rural communities are not carrying environmental risks without proper safeguards. And third, I would make sure Washington hears what Murray County residents are saying when federal policy touches local communities. Local decisions require local consent, and people deserve clear answers before projects of this scale move forward.
But this is a very tough situation because when you're running for Congress, we want to be able to say we would fix it and we would stop it. But where is the executive power? It's not in Congress for a lot of this. However, we can create standards for safe drinking water and waste disposal. Congress could do that federally. And second of all, the job of a congresswoman is to be a facilitator, an advocate, and a listening ear. And that's another way that a congress member could help in the situation. The difference between a good congress member and a great one is service to their community. So you could help provide advice, oversight, and lead local community efforts. Just your presence there would bring more attention to the issue. You can also use your network to help your citizens advocate for themselves. And you can give guidance on comprehensive environmental and traffic plans that could benefit their community. Lastly, you can form a coalition where we can all work together, because when we serve each other side to side, we have more strength all the way in DC. Thank you.
Okay, I was just went away in a different order, but really quick before I put my foot in my mouth, General Harris, can you confirm that you oppose the bio facility in Murray County? Okay, so the bio facility issue in Murray County is such a big problem that we have found a first issue that Sean Harris agrees with Marjorie Taylor Greene on. Okay, so I stand with the residents of Murray County. I do not want the facility to be built. First and foremost, because I believe that as a community, you should have the ability to decide what is within your community, right? That facility has the ability to bring down housing values. And even worse than that, it is a poor use of agricultural land that is disappearing at a rate of almost 1 million acres a year. Where I am going to differ, every candidate I'm willing to bet opposes that facility. But where I'm going to differ is that I believe to be able to change these, that we also have to offer solutions. Okay. So I actually think that biocomposting is a really neat capability. However, it hasn't been proven yet, right? So there's risks there. Something that we can do with biocomposting is that we can use a capped landfill. You roll a cement pad over the top. We're able to reuse land that has already been wasted to a landfill, and that we don't risk the contamination that goes into the ground because we have put it on a cement pad, and then we can learn if it works in the future.
The federal government has no business trying to regulate local issues. I'm sorry to have to say that, because there are some things that our local governments are going to do that we definitely don't want. But the moment that we open the door to the federal government stepping in, we have a much worse animal. We need to be able to keep our governance as close to full as possible. Anything that we can do on a state, county, local level, we need to be doing at that level. The federal government should be as far away from dealing with these things as possible, because it isn't, it's a hand. The government taught at that level cannot do small scale things. It just is going to destroy it. And so I see my job, if elected, as to keep the federal government as far away from your lives as I can. I'm sorry that that means that I can't do anything about this waste facility. But I need to stay in my lane. And I need to make sure that everybody else in Congress stays in there.
As your Congresswoman, I would work with the EPA, that agency, because as you mentioned, that is not something that a federal should be involved in. However, as your representative, I would work extremely closely with the EPA to make sure that an independent environmental impact analysis is done, that groundwater contamination risk review was done, and the air quality monitoring was done. Because let's face it, our communities should not be asked to trust, they should see the proof. Now, as your Congresswoman, I would make sure that there were no federal grants given to that facility, because I couldn't control whether it comes in or not, but I can control whether federal grants are given for it. I would also make sure that the federal energy subsidy that they're asking for would not be given to them. So we do have a voice, but I would work with those other agencies.
I, like everyone else up here, would not be, I'm opposed to the biowaste fill facility. This is an opportunity for you to elect an advocate, someone that's going to be accessible. And I've pledged since day one to be the most accessible representative that's ever served Georgia 14. And when it comes to issues like the biowaste facility, yeah, we can't do anything about it in Congress, supposedly. But what we can do, I can be here. I can be on top of the issues. I'll be accessible to the divide that's in the community. where someone with leverage and power, which this is seat will have leverage and power, can bring to fight for everyday Northwest Georgians. So, obviously, that's my stance on that. Now, what?
Biggest issue, feedback. Stuff. Forever.
Carbon polychloralkyl PFAS is forever chemicals that has affected our groundwater and our surface water. These corporations, they need to be on the hook. They don't need to be let off the hook. And they also, if anybody's running PR for them, they need to put a high quality water filter in every resident in Northwest Georgia's house for free. So that's what I got to say.
CEOs of the biowaste facility come soon. I will stand with the people. We need to see economic growth in our communities, but it has to have the support of the people. Now, there are going to be a number of candidates in this race who will talk about this as a political issue to try to gain votes. But this issue is personal to me. At age 31, as I mentioned in my opening, I was diagnosed with cancer. I went through a 13-hour surgery where the term visiting hours for my wife at the ICU room in Walter Reed didn't mean anything. She slept right next to me in a recliner chair. I was diagnosed with thyroid cancer. I would encourage each and every one of you to do research on thyroid cancer rates in Northeast Georgia, where I grew up as a 9th generation North Georgian. This isn't a political issue to me. This is a personal fight. I nearly died at 31 with a new wife, a 2-year-old daughter, that I wasn't going to get to walk down the aisle. So I stand with the people, make sure that we get the right sort of economic development that we want to see in the community. I will fight on the front lines to make sure that that biowaste facility does not happen here. I will fight to make sure that we have clean water, clean land, that we protect our family, not because I'm asking for your votes from a political perspective. I'm going to be on that front line fighting for each and every one of you because this issue is personal to me. The reason that I need a mic, when I went into my surgery for 13 hours, they told me I may come out of that surgery never being able to speak again because the amount of cancer they're going to have to take off my vocal cords. I will fight for you because this is personal.
Thank you for that. What I would say is, some of them said there that night in Murray County, and I was too. And it's not many times since I run against Martin Taylor Greene for 2.5 years or whatever it was, that Martin Taylor Greene and Sean Harris agreed on anything. However, when it came to Murray County, we agreed. When it came to the Epstein files, we agreed. Those are the only two things that Martin Taylor Greene and Sean Harris agreed upon, because both were wrong. The other thing is this: when it comes to Murray County, when it comes to Polk County, when it comes to all of Northwest Georgia, no matter how you want to cut it, we have an environmental problem that nobody's actually addressed. As your congressman, I will not get involved in what's happening at the local level, but I will actually have involvement so that at local level people want to come tell us, we can actually be somebody that's going to stand up for you. Because right now, here in Northwest Georgia, something is wrong. Between Dalton to Rome, Georgia, is the highest level of cancer in this country. And right now, you don't have anybody in DC that's fighting for you in that particular issue. I want to make sure I'm going to fight for Murray County. I'm going to work with Murray County to bring in jobs that they want with their chamber. But on top of that, I promise you, on day one when I get the Congress, first thing we're going to be working on is getting our hands around who is responsible for that, who knew what, when, and why. Because it is affecting us completely across the board. And that's why I don't care if you're a Democrat, Independent, or Republican, because we are all being affected across the board.
want to say thank you to the candidates for your thoughtful answers to these questions. Now, each candidate will have 2 minutes for closing remarks. This time, we will go in special order. Starting with Rob Kelsey.
Started talking to you about how we're all on the same ship, taking on water for decades. But not everyone is on the same deck. Some families in this district are just trying to keep their heads. Tonight, I talked about neighbors who build lives here and deserve dignity. I talked about trade policies that affect jobs right here at home. I talked about protecting our land, water, and our lives. And I talked about national debt that can't be passed down to our children. These aren't abstract issues. They affect real people. And many people are also worried about something deeper. Whether our institutions are strong enough to protect our freedoms, whether executive power is balanced, whether our elections remain secure and accessible to every eligible voter. Now we're facing another turn. Technology is moving fast. Artificial intelligence could eliminate jobs quickly or shake up the economy in ways we're not prepared for if it doesn't work out the way they and in either case, regular people shouldn't be left holding the bag while those at the top get protected. We need leadership willing to start where the problems are, not where it's politically convenient. I'm Rob Rush, and I don't answer to party bosses or corporate donors. I answer to the people of this district. And if you send me to Washington, I will fight to restore balance, fairness, accountability for everyone on our ship. And if you're interested in learning more, go to rushcongress.com. I'd love to have you on our team.
I'm Victor Long, and I'm asking because we need accountability, we need transparency, and we need to know how our tax dollars are being spent in DC and across the country. It is one of the most crucial things that we have a change. We keep sending the same corrupt politicians that have empty promises. They always campaign on saying they're going to fix this, that, and the other, but they never do anything. We don't need more people up there that are going to go and bend the knee to the leadership or to anybody else. They have to be able to work to get the job done and represent the people that elected them and voted them into office. That's why I'm running, and that's why you should vote for me. I appreciate everybody tonight. I look forward to talking to you. I think everybody knows my name is Sean Harris, and I'm running for Congress to represent you, your kids, your grandkids. Period. I'm not calling DC or calling anybody that you don't that and saying we need to endorse me. No, Sean Harris is his own man. I got a backbone for myself, and I'm going to stand up for you. And when I say stand up, part of standing up, listen, I want to make sure that everybody in this room, everybody that's watching tonight, understands that when I wake up, I want to make sure that you have a fair shake, and I want to make sure that you buy this stuff down. We all know that healthcare is out of control, affordability is out of control, people losing their job. But on top of all of that, I had to go on a limb and say at least 7,000 people in this district got my direct phone number. Many of you in this room probably do, and many of us actually online. The reason why you have my number is because leadership matters, and because I want you to call me directly. When I get in Congress, it will be 3 offices in this district. One will be right here in Dalton, the other one will be in Rome, Georgia, and the last one will be in West Colorado. And inside of those offices, you will be able to get in touch with me, and my team will work to help you. But because I'm a veteran, we will have each one of those offices an office for veterans, but not only for veterans, but also for your spouse, so that we can finally help you get the benefits that you have deserved. We have said for too long
Thank you for your service. Sean Harris is gonna put real stuff behind thank you for your service and get you from 10%, 20% to whatever. And then your spouse that's left when you pass away, I'll make sure your spouse gets the benefits he's already heard or he has already heard.
My name is Clay Dollar, and say thank you for this event. Actually would have appreciated if there were rules that we could have had it back and forth, because you know what's gonna happen. We don't talk to each other, talk past each other. Many of you don't agree with me in this room, but I'm coming into a room where there are many people who are supporting me here, having an honest conversation about who I am, what I stand for, and what I believe. What I stand for and what I believe is that I'm going to be a warrior for Northwest Georgia on Capitol. I'm President Trump back each and every day. That's the reason why he has selected our campaign and endorsed our campaign. And if you're looking for a warrior for Northwest Georgia, if you're looking for someone who stands for faith, duty, and America first, if you're looking for somebody who is a military veteran, because I think we've got 3 of them here today, I think about 22% of Capitol Hill are military veterans. We need more military veterans. If you're looking for somebody who has taken an oath to protect this country and this community, an elected district attorney, fighting to make sure the worst criminals in our community were put behind bars for the rest of their life. My name is Clay Fuller, and I'm asking for your vote. If you care about America first, if you care about protecting the unborn, you care about the Second Amendment, you care about the truth that the Trump economic agenda is working, bringing down prices, bringing record job growth, and bringing GDP growth to this country, I'm asking for your vote. President Trump endorsed our campaign. He said, I will never let this be. That's the truth. My name is Clay Fuller. I'm asking for your vote. I will never let Northwest Georgia down. Thank you. Other side, so I don't have the same opinion. But this is an opportunity to vote for yourself. I'm not handpicked. I'm not backed by the elite. I'm a regular everyday American doing the right. I have the courage, passion to stand up for what's right, but accountability that needs to take place in Washington. See, when someone gives you a job, you work hard, you figure it out, and things happen. And that's what I want in this district. I want things to happen. I promise I'll never raise taxes. I promise to be the most successful candidate. I promise to lead with a servant's heart. People on Social Security. I'm for no taxes on Social Security. Disabled veterans. You should be able to take 100% of your homestead exemption. These are common sense things. When next person gets elected, they're going to be representing 800,000 people in this district. Now, I know there's 2 sides of the aisle, the blue and the red, but we need to move towards a future where we can reach across the aisle, common sense conversations that make a change for everyday Americans who are bearing the brunt of the failure of the leadership in Washington, D.C. from those that came. The opportunity is now. Actually, there's a lot of opportunity. There's 17 candidates running. The opportunity is now to vote for someone just like me that's going to be here, that's going to go to Washington and not be beholden to the political class or the foreign interest or the elite. I ask for your vote on March 10th. Vote RunForCongress.com. Thank you very much.
I'm Star Black, and I believe that God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. Tonight, we've been using our mouth quite a bit. We haven't had the opportunity to use our 2 ears to listen to you. I am that candidate that will listen to you and be your voice. I believe that we need to support each other. We need to make sure that our borders are protected, that our taxes are lower, and then you have someone that is going to fight for you, whether you voted for them or not. Because once you put me in that office, regardless of your party affiliation, you're my responsibility. I will be your voice to work with all those other federal agencies to get you your answer. Because you know what, when you call a congressional office, you're at your wit's end. That's the last place you call to get help. And I have worked with all those federal agencies. I know their process. I know how it works to get you your answer. And I can get the results that you need, regardless of whether you. Again, I'm Star Black, and black is the new green.
I'm Andrew, as I told you, I'm running as a libertarian. A lot of people don't want. But I see it as the opposite. I am not beholden to either major party's leadership. I go to Congress. I become a swing vote, which means both parties, if they want to push something through, need to approach me. That means that this district get even more representation. We have these massive bills that keep getting pushed through that nobody receives. I can guarantee you, if nothing else, I guarantee you that I will read every single bill. I read more than 50 books. I can read some bills. If I'm given insufficient time, I vote no on it. Because I am not sign a contract on behalf full of my district without having read it. These are simple, common sense things. And yet Washington has been loath to do them. We need an adult in the room. And I'd like to be.
Not like I'm. I was hoping to take advantage of the technology error in my favor, but I guess I didn't get to. So there is a lot of people that are running, and I would like to use the last couple of minutes to do something that is a little untraditional. I am not going to stand here and ask you to vote for me. I am going to ask you to leave here and look me up and ask me questions. The wonderful thing about this jungle primary is that there is so many candidates that everybody here should be able to find somebody that you can get behind. This forum is not enough for you guys to make a decision. We didn't talk about healthcare. We didn't talk about agriculture. We didn't talk about food. We didn't talk about education. We didn't talk about infrastructure. All of these things matter. So thank you guys for coming. Even those of you that fell asleep a few times, yes, I saw you. I know that it's relatively quiet and that can be hard. You guys coming out to vote means that you guys exercise, or you guys coming out to hear us make a decision about who you're going to vote for means that you took the time to exercise one of your most fundamental rights. And as a candidate, I appreciate that. As retired military, I appreciate that. And as a citizen who was worried about my kids' future and them being involved, I appreciate that you guys have taken the time to make this decision. So look through all the candidates, ask them questions. I think most of us will stay around here for a while. And thank you guys for attending.
So I'm Meg Strickland, and I'm also running. And I'll say that one of the privileges of running for office is that you get to talk about what you want to. So I would like to point out that only one other candidate said the word school today. This is the second forum that I've been in where education has not been discussed at all. And Bo brought it up in light of the fact that his wife was a former public school teacher. So I want to take this moment to say thank you to our teachers because you're making our future strong. If we have strong families, strong schools, we will have a strong future, but we have to invest in that. So what I believe is that every child and every teacher deserves to come home from school every day safe. We have to have a safe learning environment for teachers to manage their classrooms effectively. So what I saw during COVID was that Congress worked together to create emergency funding to address that national crisis. School safety is no different. We have a national crisis in school safety. Instead of arguing about divisive tactics or gun control, we could be working together to create passive school safety techniques. Congress can work to create a federal grant program for rural and schools that also need it most to improve school safety. This could be reinforced doors, automatically locking doors, voiders, security fencing, the parameter, or moving playgrounds out of the sidelines of the public. These things would protect our children and our teachers. Doing so ensures we have a strong future. So it is time to act. If you would agree with that, vote for me. Thank you.
Thank you all for attending. Thank you, Tom. We invite you to become a member of the League. You can join online at www.lwb.org or see one of our meetings. Also, don't forget early voting begins Monday, February 16th, and election day March 10th. Thank you all again.